G'day traders, welcome to wrap up of Monday the 19th of March. So start of a brand new week. During the end of last week we hit those 1400 levels which we've been talking about, so a lot of people are under the impression that these markets can really start to sell off. But that's all based on fundamental information, and as a trader what I'd say about that is really need to stick to technical analysis. Myself, I try not to let the news or other people's opinions influence me, and I just look at the markets for what they are. And clearly at the moment, still on the daily chart, we're pushing higher. We're at all-time highs over the last couple of years, and on this particular day, Monday, it's the same thing. We pushed up and continue to push up, and it's definitely a buyer's market. They're really strong, and I wouldn't be looking at um, sellers until they start to prove otherwise and start breaking down through support levels on the daily charts. So here, starting with the 5-minute chart on the left-hand side here, before the open we did have a little bit of a sell-off. The European market opened at 3 a.m. US time. They pushed the market down a little bit, but what can quite often happen as soon as we get this open of the cash market, in come all the big traders and the institutions from the US, and they can take it whichever way they want. So that's why it's just, you can use the pre-market as an indication, but at the same time be very careful. It might not necessarily keep on heading that way. So cash market open here, we pushed higher. We pushed up 1, 2, about 3, 5 points. We started the pullback here. So this type of pullback here, it's a good area to potentially definitely look at. We're with the dailies, got everything going for it. So as the predictor's crossing down, it's definitely an area to look at, and you want to see at least a 3-point pullback to give you a bit of confidence that this area is going to work. But also watch other markets. In this particular case, even though it did push up higher from there, some of the other markets, especially the Nasdaq and the Dow Jones, they were sitting a bit awkward. They'll down close to their cash market lows and pull back a lot further. So for that reason, I was a little bit hesitant to go with whether this was just a pullback or a new trend. So for that reason, just hung back a bit. But it's very important to keep on watching those other markets. From there, we pushed up a second time and had a go at these highs. If you see all the other markets breaking in this area and pushing high, it's a great area where it can potentially break through after this first pullback, and it's an area that will quite often work. But watching this, and any other markets at the time, the markets we weren't really interested on the upside at this stage, and it looked like quite clearly that we were going to bounce off this area and pull back, which we did. Pull back, and as we got this pullback, again the Dow Jones started to break a little bit lower, and thought we might have had a bit of a sell-off here. So to see these buyers come in, for myself, it wasn't quite expected. But when looking back over the charts, and always, it's always worth looking back over when you see a trend like this and just try and find some sort of evidence of it coming. And at the time, even though my perception was a bit of sideways movement, wasn't so sure about these buyers, I look back over and at this particular area here where we're just approaching this area, if you look at the Nasdaq, it had already broken and clearly broken these areas, and took another couple of minutes for the markets to follow. So when you've got a market, whether it's the Nasdaq or the Russell, those smaller markets breaking like that, most markets tend to follow when they do something. So there was some evidence there that was coming, and from there, once that level's broken, that was just, I guess, the floodgates opening, and all the buyers just need that little bit of encouragement. From there, they just took it up higher quite easily, and you can see we've pushed up there. So through this uptrend here, a little bit difficult to get on. What we're really looking for is a decent pullback, quite a decent pullback to potentially get on the upside, or look for a sell trend to start developing. So tough, even though you see these buyers and you really want to be a part of this action, unless you get on down here, it's really difficult to get on with the later trend. From there, we pushed through lunch, kept on pushing higher. The market topped out just short of 2 o'clock chart time, and from there we started the pullback. So a couple of other markets started breaking down quite heavily. So it's through this area I was thinking and looking for a potential sell-off. Definitely looking at directional trade or something like that, looking for, I guess, the market come down, test an area. So you can see around here the market started to pull back a bit. So would like to see it pull back, form a bit of a shoulder, then go on the downside again and see all the other markets breaking, and from there you can look at sells. But the fact this market just sold out off with without any pullback, again, made it a little bit difficult to get on. But most times you will see a bit of a pullback, and there is opportunity to get on that. But in this particular case, it was a little bit difficult. Showing the 1-minute chart again. So this is where we pushed up to start off the day. We pulled back around this area here. Some of the other markets were were looking a bit downish and heading towards their lows, but from there they got the power to push back up, but there wasn't enough momentum to push through. We had a second pullback, and you can see, even if it is pulling back, it's pulling back within tight ranges. We're not hitting power points or anything. And then this second go at the highs is when it started to break up. This power point here is always an option to fade, especially when you're seeing the Nasdaq and the other markets break higher like they did. So it's sitting just above that resistance area, and when it does break and get a couple of ticks above it, the chances of the buyers going on with it is quite high. So there's definitely a potential fade, something to look at or be aware of and look out for another time. And then we kept on pushing high, so we hit another power point. Up around here we're looking at a yellow power point, which would have meant the market's quite extended, and then not so much taking the yellow but looking for the market to pull back after the yellow 2 power points, and then take it as a bit of a pullback and get back on the buy side. So that's the sort of thing we were looking at this area here. Obviously it never eventuated from there. We went very sideways, and then in the afternoon we got that sell off. So when we got this sell off here, I mean, this power fade here, quite a difficult one to take. You just don't know where the market's at, but what you'd rather see is where we got this pullback here, pull back a bit more, even test this yesterday's close, yesterday's high, and get all the other markets holding there and then pushing down, and then look for a power fade on the downside. But just in this particular case here, like on the 5-minute charts, not really enough of a pullback, even though we did get a bit of a sell-off. So an interesting kind of day. It's kind of funny these days when you see a lot of movement, but all on the one side. It's kind of tough when ideally what we want to see is multiple directions, and that's what gives us a lot more opportunities. But anyway, that's a wrap up for Monday, and we'll speak to you guys on Tuesday.